Hello and welcome to this edition of CharmTV's Game Changers. I'm Mark Clark. On this episode of Game Changers, we're joined by Kelly Reynolds and Larry Shaw of the Baltimore Chesapeake Bay Outward Bound School. Kelly and Larry are here to discuss the Police Youth Challenge that has served more than 500 participants over the last 10 years. We'll be right back. And we're talking with Kelly Reynolds and Larry Shaw of the Baltimore Chesapeake Bay Outward Bound School. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you.
And Larry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Larry, I understand you have some Charleston roots.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later on. So, Kelly, tell us about Outward Bound, what you're doing.
Sure. Well, Outward Bound has been around for a long time. We've been working in Baltimore for 31 years this year. And primarily we work with youth, leadership development, character education through many outdoor pursuits. So we take groups on expeditions, we use our challenge course and do team building and leadership development through that. And we also have a large initiative that works with the police department.
Well, I know for me, the first time when I first hear about Outward Bound, I always think about the college program because I know you guys do a lot with that. But Larry, the Police Youth Challenge is also a big part of it. Tell us about that.
So the Police Youth Challenge, we've been doing that for about 10 years now. And the goal is just to help the perception be changed or altered from kids, how they feel about cops and how cops feel about kids. And so we've been bringing them out to our campus and spending the day with us. Every Thursday we do that.
So Larry, you're working with these kids, and you're working with the police officers. What have you, with this discussion kind of being at the forefront for the last couple of years, what have you seen as far as the connect or disconnect, or what do you think the challenge is?
I think a lot of times we allowed or blame the media for painting our perceptions of things, and a lot of times it gives us a jaded perception of it. And in this situation, we allow them to bring down the walls and humanize each other again and actually experience each other. The cops might feel that the kids are all unruly, and the kids might feel that the cops are all bad, and they get an opportunity to see these humans. In particular, there's a couple of events where the kids will say, I forgot that I was hanging around cops. So they get an opportunity just to have fun and humanize each other, but also like work on different things of the solving problems together.
And so Kelly, I mean, you actually witnessed this, and with your observations, do you see, like especially probably with the problem when it first starts, you've probably seen this happen many times, but initially, that initial meeting or that initial, interaction, what do you see from the young people?
Sure. Well, definitely hesitancy. Both officers and youth walk into the program with uncertain of how some interactions might go. Maybe they're bringing in tension, maybe they're bringing in a story, maybe they're bringing in an experience. And so you can see it. You can see it in their body language. You can see people grouping up with people they know. And it's really fun to see just right at the beginning some of the ways we structure the program to get people having fun together. We believe is a really powerful way just right from the start to break down some of those feelings that folks can walk in with.
In the old days, we used to call them officer friendly. And I think the system, I think that's what doesn't get talked about enough, is I think the system, for whatever reason, back in the old days, when you had a police officer who walked the beat and who knew the neighborhood, obviously that just creates a natural relationship and not the kind of thing we have now, almost a more military thing. Larry, in your experience with, because I'm sure, again, the officers, they want to have the connection. Do they ever express that, like as far as the standpoint of sometimes the way it's done or the system maybe is one of the challenges, that they have to get around?
Yeah, sometimes they actually express that, like the PAL, the police athletic leads, they express that they don't have the opportunity to do these things again, and they want to do it, and in so much that sometimes they actually forget how to do it. I see cops walking up and down the street now, and a lot of them may be on their phone or they kind of like shell shocked for some reason, but they don't know how to approach the kids. And I think this just gives them the opportunity to like not learn for the first time, but relearn how to talk to the kids.
And I think that's the piece, like you mentioned before, Larry, the media piece that rarely gets talked about. It just ends up almost being like us versus them, or the community versus the police officers. So Kelly, you guys have so much experience, not just with this program, but just like you mentioned, 30 years with Outward Bound. It probably makes you, I'm not an expert, but you guys have really answered a lot of questions. Tell us how that feels to be a part of that.
Sure, I think that's what makes a program like this really powerful, is we have been trained in youth engagement. That's what we specialize in. And so allowing just some professional development, in a sense, for officers, saying, here's how you can make a community engagement day really powerful. We do about a 45-minute session with officers in the morning before they interact with youth about exactly that. In a day where community relations and community building is the goal, what are some things that they can do really practically to open up the conversation, to have fun, to use those tried and true best practices with youth? And so we just feel really honored to be in that partnership to help officers do what I think you said. They want to have positive relationships and sometimes don't know how, and we're giving them a chance to learn it and practice it and have a lot of fun.
Well, let's take a quick break. We're talking with Kelly Reynolds and Larry Shaw, the Baltimore Chesapeake Bay Outward Bound School. More coming up. And we're talking with Kelly Reynolds and Larry Shaw of the Baltimore Chesapeake Bay Outward Bound School. So Kelly, take me through the process. So I want to participate. I'm a kid. I want to participate in Outward Bound. What do I do?
Sure. Well, thankfully we have a long history of working with schools and youth-serving organizations in the city. So we rely pretty heavily on our school partnerships to identify which students would be great candidates for this program. And so schools will send a cross-section of their student population, which is what we want. Our goal is to serve every city student in Baltimore to come through this program and have a positive interaction. And sometimes we'll get students who are influencers in their peer group, in their community, and those students have the opportunity to go back, they're leaders in their classroom, to share their experience. And some of the students that our partners send are students with they're on the behavioral management track. And they come and have a positive experience, and we hope and we believe that shifted perceptions will perhaps change a future encounter that they might have with the law enforcement. And so it's really fun to see so many students come through the program, and I think we've worked with almost 3,000 students so far. How often do
the students meet or participate?
We hold the program every week, every Thursday.
Every week. I'm just curious, Kelly, sometimes I'm sure the school recommends a kid and says, okay, this kid is this kid is that. In your experience, have you ever been shocked when either the maybe not, it wasn't accurate, or the kid showed to be something different in the program?
Yes, I would say we work in nature, we work on the challenge course. Both of those arenas are unscripted, and we are often so surprised by the positivity when we're gathered around positive outcomes that those students and those officers have together. And it is so often that we hear from a school, these kids, we send them for a reason, and they are so articulate and they're so engaged, and we walk away and the officers walk away saying, wow, like what great kids we have in this city.
I love it. And so, Larry, you were saying that off the air that there's going to be some expansion going on that you're excited about. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so right now, as she said, every Thursday we have groups out there, and it's Outward Bound and law enforcement in middle school or high school. But what we're looking to do is expand the program out to where they have more touches, because after that day, sometimes they don't get to connect again. And so we want to be more intentional about building relationships. And so we're working with other organizations to help us out with this. And they specialize in whatever they specialize in. So if it's mental health, youth advocacy, storytelling, things like that, we just partner up with other organizations who are doing peace building around law enforcement and youth and communities.
Do the police officers, are they selected? Do they volunteer? Do they rotate out? How does that work?
So it's a part of their in-service training. So every Baltimore City cop will go through that, and so
That's good.
on the Thursday that they're supposed to come out, they'll come out there.
Okay, that's good. And so you guys actually get to see, Kelly, a snapshot of the people too. And I'm not going to ask you if you're horrified or not, but I think it probably does provide insight into one officer. You can see it's a passion. It's a part of. They feel like it's a part of my service. Some other officers, I'm sure, look at it like, I got to do this. Let me get it over with as soon as possible. I don't care. And so, do you see the different attitudes and things that come through?
Yes, just like every student is unique, every officer is unique.
Yeah. Do you see them grow?
Oh, definitely. And that's, we've been studying this program for about 4 years now. And to see just even statistics, the numbers that come out of our surveys about officers, perceptions changing, their trust building, their, social distance is something we measure, and how I feel different and other than you, and how that is, bridging some of that gap a little bit. Definitely outcomes in officers, outcomes in youth.
Kelly, Larry, thank you so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Game Changers. I'm Mark Clark. I will see you next time. Do you know a game changer in Baltimore? Send us your ideas to CharmTV@baltimorecity.gov.